Hello, everyone, and welcome to Maryland Public Prodcast. I'm Mike Woodard, a production editor at MPT, and on this show, we like to talk to the people who work behind the scenes at Maryland Public Television, find out what they do, and explore what goes into bringing you dedicated public programming. Now, I am filling in for my colleague, Brandon Holthaus, for a special reason today, and that's because we felt it was finally time to flip the script here, and Brandon is actually the guest here on today's show. How you doing, Brandon?
I feel a little threatened because that was a really good intro.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not coming for your job or anything, I swear. I have to live up to a high standard that you set.
Oh, is that
being
it?
the host on this show. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, see, there you go. All right, but welcome to the show today, Brandon. Is this
Thank
fun
you.
to be on the receiving end of the questions here so far?
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
It is a little weird because I'm always like, what is everybody's problem? Come on to the podcast. It's not a big deal. Now that I'm on this side, I'm like, I'm going to say something really stupid.
Oh, now I see what the big deal is.
Right.
First and foremost, really, I think congratulations are in order because recently the 2020 Capital Emmy nominees were announced, and MPT in total had 17 nominations, and that includes you for your editing on Maryland Farm and Harvest. So congrats, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, congrats to you, and of course, congrats to everybody at MPT who was nominated and all the nominees in general. But so for you, how does it feel to be nominated this year?
It is a great feeling because I've always wanted to be nominated for an Emmy. I've always wanted to win an Emmy. It's one of my career goals. And this is my second nomination. I got nominated last year for Outdoors Maryland. But I love Outdoors Maryland. I absolutely loved working on it. But the farm show I've been on for 3 years. And
Oh, wow.
I kind of feel like that's my show. I'm the online editor, and we have a fantastic creative team that I absolutely love to work with. But I do feel like since I've been a part of it for so long, I've taken a little bit of ownership. So I'm very proud of my work on there and proud of what the team has been able to produce. So originally, because the show's been on for 7 seasons now.
Wow.
When I came on, the editor before me had gotten nominated almost every season for the show. And when then I came on, and that first year, they didn't get a nomination, and I took that hard because I was like, I'm not living up to the level that they are on. So for me to get nominated for that show, it was a really great feeling because I felt like I had finally done the team proud.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, you also covered about 5 of my questions already, but I'm going to go forward anyway and just say, so like you said, this is the second time you were nominated. How was the show last year? I mean, how was attending it? Did that feel special?
There's a picture on my Facebook page of me kind of toasting the camera, and I have this smirk on my face because I'm kind of like, I finally did it.
I'm here.
I have arrived. So
nice.
It was really fun, and it was really cool to be a part of because I mean, I've been a lifelong TV watcher and movie watcher, and I've always watched the Emmys and the Oscars and anything like that, and I've never had a chance to attend something, especially as a nominee. So
did it feel like how you thought attending an Oscar award show would be?
It felt really good because I got to take my mom and my aunt to the show,
that's nice.
And I was really proud of the fact that I was nominated, and then I got to take them as my guest as well.
That's
because
awesome.
they supported me throughout my entire career. So that's what felt the best, was the fact that they were able to attend with me.
Nice. Now, they do plan to do a show this year, but obviously with the current situation, it's probably not going to be in the same format. Is that going to be weird if it's virtual this year, or are you still going to feel that same sense of...
I feel like this might be the year that I win because it will be virtual and I won't be able to go up on the stage and make a speech. But
of course.
Yeah, but it definitely will be weird. I still have been looking on Amazon for tuxes, so even if we don't do it virtually, I'm still going to buy a tux and
You should.
just wear it in my living room next to my dog probably.
That's awesome. So, like I said, you treaded on several of my questions. So, I was going to ask you. So, you're an online editor, for Maryland Farm and Harvest. Now, for you and I, we know there are definitely different levels of editing for each professional show.
Right.
But what exactly is your editing role for Farm? Just explain for people who might not know what an online editor is.
Sure. So we have a few different producers for Farm, and it's the same for Outdoors and a couple of the other shows. But the producer goes out into the field, shoots with a videographer, and then they come back, create a script, and then they're the ones that go in and do a rough cut.
Okay.
So I get to add to the story that they've already started. So, so they cut something together, and then I will get the story and put that with Joanne, our host, put that with her raps. And I also have to get the show cut to time.
Right.
It's specific here. 26:46 is our running time for a half-hour show. And a lot of the times these stories could run long, they could run short, and it's my job to make sure it fits into that 26:46 time slot. It's my job to make sure that the funders are recognized in the show. It's my job to make sure that the colors match. They're going inside of barns, outside of barns.
Sure.
So it's my job to make sure everything comes together, looks correct, so the viewer isn't thrown off by like, why is that so bright and why is that so dark? And I also put in captions and then tech eval it to make sure it meets the standards, and then get it also ready for Jill, our sound mixer, because after me it goes to sound, and she does all of the mixing.
That was going to be one of my follow-ups. Are you one of the last people who touches the video before it goes out for air?
Yeah, so it'll go through me, and then I'll watch it with a producer, and if he's happy with it, then we bring in the executive producer, and if the executive producer is happy with it, then it goes to Jill, who works with sound. The producer watches it again for the sound mix. The sound mix is then created, given back to me. I edit that back in, so it's a stereo mix. That goes out to a file or an XD cam, and then I watch that and make sure shots aren't too bright, because there are specific qualifications that when it goes to air, it can't be too bright, it can't be too loud, it can't be too dark. And
it's very technical. There is a lot of a lot of people don't realize there are a lot of technical things. I didn't even know that before I came here, how many technical things you have to look out for in a video before it can be put to air.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, because a lot of people are streaming now, and a lot of people are watching YouTube, and there are no standards.
Right.
You can put something that completely blows your speakers, breaks them because it's so loud.
Right.
If you're broadcasting, they need to be at a specific level that it's not going to disturb the viewer of like, why is this so loud? So it's a lot of technical stuff. There's been times where I've exported a show 6 or 7 times because I just can't get one shot into the standards that it has to be, and it's my job to make sure everything fits where it should.
Right. Now, and there is a lot of technical, but how much like of a creative hand do you get in your role? Obviously, like you said, you add elements in. Do you get some say in how creative you get to be with some of those?
My favorite part is getting to cut down.
Okay.
So I'm more creative with the fact where if something is running long, I can be creative and say, we don't need this line. We can take that out because it'll still make sense.
Right.
Also, there was one story last season where it was a big thing too with editing is that you're telling a story visually and through the way we do it. Well, it was about a farmer going to a farmer's market, and the line that Joanne had said in the voiceover was something along the lines of the farmer's market is under I-83 and they're setting up. Well, there was a shot of the farmer's market under 83, but we as the viewer are in the car with the farmer.
Oh.
So we haven't gotten there yet.
Right, yeah.
So I talked to the producer, cleared it, make sure he was okay with it, but I said I switched these 2 shots because I don't want to see the farmer's market yet.
Right.
We're in the car with the farmer. So we need to be in the car, we need a shot of the car arriving.
Right.
Then we can see the farmer's market.
Right.
So it's you still get to be creative, but it's in that way of it's still kind of technical, but you still get to be creative and tell the story because I want the story to flow. For the viewer. Another fun thing is the then and now of that show is that that's with a lot of archived footage or photos, and it's fun with that because there was one where it was talking about how zucchini came from Europe to the U.S. So I animated a zucchini kind of going across the Atlantic Ocean and then kind of spinning around and then landing in Maryland. So yeah, you get to do that as well. So that they're both, very fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest. That sounds like the kind of editing I like. One of the best things about editing is when you make like that great edit that you're just like you make the edit and then you're like, that's great. No one's going to notice that I just did that. I know that's happened to me several times when I've edited news. Like, I'll cut down an interview. And it's funny because that is the point.
Yeah.
Like, people shouldn't notice the edits because that's the whole point of the product we're putting out. We want it to be seamless. But do you, like, I guess maybe that's a moment like that. But do you have, like, favorite moments where you've done stuff like that, where you've cut something down and then you're like, no one's going to see that, but it's great?
I can't think of anything specifically,
Right.
but that was one of the things I had trouble with when I applied to be a nominee for the Emmys.
Mm-hmm.
Was the first time I did it was, how do I show what I did? Because I guess you want an interesting story,
Right.
but I don't want to be nominated because, oh, that was a great shot, because I didn't shoot it.
Right.
And if I color corrected something, they're not going to know that it's color corrected unless I specifically tell them.
Right.
I will say that my family and my friends hate watching television and movies with me because it's
I think I have an idea why, but go ahead.
yeah, there, because
I think we're in the same mindset here.
yeah, I'll sit there and I'll just go, oh, that's what this should have been. That was a bad
Yes.
cut. This was bad. They're like,
Yep.
how do you see that? How do you notice that? I'm like, that's a jump cut. That's this, that's that.
Yep.
So even though I love watching movies and television, it is hard to do that now.
It can be frustrating sometimes when you just know, like, oh, they could have done that so much better, and
Yeah.
it sticks in your brain for a second because you're just like, why didn't they do it this way? And yeah, exactly, it affects your enjoyment level of what you're supposed to be watching. Everybody else might just be like, oh, it's fine, whatever, I didn't notice. And it's the same thing like when we jumped from like SD television to HD.
Yes.
Same thing.
Oh my
People like
God.
us, we notice this stuff because we want our visual content to look so good as it can. And so when people say like, oh, I don't see the difference between HD, it's like, how do you not?
Right.
It's right there. HD looks so much better. That sort of stuff for us editors, it can really bug us, and everybody else is just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? It's fine. So how long have you been at MPT now, Brandon, in total?
I've been at MPT 12 years. Technically,
Wow.
I guess 13 or maybe 12 and a half if you include interning, because I did
okay.
intern during college and then I came back after college.
Right. So you interned, and to the best of my knowledge, you were a contractor here for a few years, right?
Correct. Right. Yeah. I came in after college as a contractor. I was supposed to be here for 6 months for
Okay.
2 shows during post-production.
Mhm.
But they liked my work and they asked me to stay on. And then I stayed on as a contractor for about 4.5 years.
And you were a contractor editor, so did they bring you into, or was it for another purpose?
Yeah, I was a contractor. I was an assistant producer. So
Okay.
I didn't actually become an editor until 6 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there were parts of the assistant producer job that had me editing, but that wasn't my full-time job at the time.
Okay. Now, we've talked about like your work history in the past. There was a time where like you weren't here because of a different job offer, and then you came back. What was the story about all that?
Yeah, so I left because I was contracted. So I left for a job that I could get insurance for. And I know you're not going to understand this, but I'm a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, I
And
don't understand
the
it, but go ahead.
the analogy I can put out there is when Bret Hart left the WWF, he went to WCW, and the biggest worry was he didn't know what they were going to do with his Hitman character.
Oh, right.
That's the same way I felt when I left MPT for this other job. Was I think they have an idea of what they want me to do,
Okay.
but they don't know what they want me to do.
Gotcha.
So I was brought in because I was told that they were going to be building a studio and that I would be in charge of the stream of what goes on air when. I was going to work with students and that they were going to create programming and that I would look over them. And then I got there and they were like, the studio is really expensive. So here's a camera and we want you to go around and we want you to shoot at different events.
Oh,
So I was like, okay,
sure.
having a studio would be nice, but
Right.
going around to different events and shooting video and then creating event videos, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. It would spotlight, all the great things that they're doing, and then we get to put them on air or we can put them on YouTube and people can see it. But they didn't understand how everything worked. So
Oh, geez.
there would be different requests for me to go places.
Right.
And I would say, all right, who is the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody's the audience. Well, no.
That's, yeah.
Is it people that are internally involved with this organization?
Mm-hmm.
Is it people that are potentially going to be a part of this organization?
Right.
Is it for the parents of the people
Mm-hmm.
that will eventually be here? Is it for people that will travel? I mean, there's
Right.
so many different audiences,
Yeah.
and the way that we edit and shoot changes
Mm-hmm.
because there's different things you want to spotlight.
Right.
You know, it's if somebody's out of the organization, they're not going to understand certain jokes or certain references. So
Right.
you need to explain those if they're not a part of it.
Right.
So that was a real big concern, and it was a real big reason I didn't want to stay there long
Okay.
term.
Fair
and I got plenty of other stories about that place, but even though I did go there,
Mm-hmm.
I kept my foot in the door here at MPT because I always felt like I was going to come back.
Okay.
So when I left MPT from the contracted job I had, because I was writing for Motor Week at the time,
Right.
I stayed on part-time for Motor Week as an online editor for them.
Okay.
Where I would take shows, cut them up, and then make segments for YouTube available. So
Oh, nice.
it's Road Test and Goss's Garage.
Right.
I would make them into their own individual videos that they
Right.
put online. So I'd come here after my job I had left for, and it would
Mm.
always be nice to get here at like a little before 5 o'clock, so I could be like, "Hey, how's everybody doing? Any jobs opening or anything like that?" So I
Nice.
always kept my foot in the door just because I
Right.
wanted them to know I wasn't gone forever.
Right. And I'm glad you explained that, because I was going to ask how you managed to do that, because that can be tricky sometimes. You know, sometimes you leave a place and maybe you want to come back, but you don't, something happens, something changes, but it's great that you were able to stay on, work a little bit, and just kind of keep throwing the reminder out there. Hey, I'm still here.
And I think even when I left, I knew I was going to come back in some way. And when I there was always a part of me that was like, all right, well, if this new gig doesn't work out, which it didn't, where else am I going to go? Because the Baltimore television market is very small.
Yes.
And everyone
Yes, it
knows
is.
everybody else.
Yeah, basically. So there's once you find a good place to be, it's best not to burn any bridges,
Right.
because
No,
you
I
might
def-
not
I-
know what else is out there.
Where I did leave from, I definitely could burn some bridges.
Right.
But it's probably in my best interest not to do that, which is
Right.
why I'm not naming them.
As
But
much as you might want to.
I do have some stories.
Well, so speaking of stories, now on the Production Services Facebook page, for the last few weeks, we've been running like some videos about production team members as various superheroes, right? So now I know yours was named Brandon.
Yes.
That's your alias, your
Yes.
superhero name.
During one episode of Direct Connection, I was credited as Brandon Holthaus. So Brandon. And I took a picture of it, and I went to the
amazing.
producer after. I went, "Hey, who's this guy?"
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring it up is because this is going to sound cheesy, and it might sound a little bit cheesy. Every superhero, as we're kind of classifying our behind the scenes members as kind of heroes of production, has an origin story. So what's yours when it comes to editing, and like how'd you get into video? Like, is this what you always wanted to do, or did this just come about like through life?
I've never seen myself doing anything but production, television, film, anything in that realm. From what my mom told me, she would sit me down, and she would always have videos or cartoons when I was a kid, and I would just be fascinated with what was on television. And whatever was on television, I would feel it. So
Right.
there was this one cartoon that I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was a duck who had a friend, and the duck started sobbing because they lost their friend.
Aw.
And I was sitting in front of the television sobbing as like a 4-year-old.
Right.
And she would be like, "What's the matter?" And I would just say, "He lost his friend." Now the cartoon was like 6 minutes long and found his friend within minutes.
Right.
But after that cartoon was done, I would rewind the tape and watch it again and
Wow.
just sob again.
So you really sympathized. I
Yeah.
mean, that's at 4.
So she always knew I was going to do something in television or film, and the bug really didn't bite me until I had a Halloween party in 6th grade. We watched the movie Scream. And I was fascinated with how they told the story. I was fascinated with how the characters spoke in movie quotes, because that was what I was already doing. And my friends were so enthralled, like I was, where they're like, who's the killer, who's this, who's that, and there were all these questions, and people were invested.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I want to invest people in something that I make. I want the audience to be so enthralled with something that they can't look away from the screen.
Right.
So ever since I saw Scream, I was like, I'm gonna do this in some way.
And Scream had a good twist too.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't give anything away for anybody who maybe hasn't seen it, but
Sure.
I did see it like way after it came out,
Right.
and I was very pleasantly surprised with the twist.
And it was, I loved the characters because they weren't stupid. They had seen movies before,
Right.
And I thought that was really nice, where they knew all of the tropes that were a part of horror movies at
Right.
the time. And I got really bummed when I got to high school because I thought, hey, this is how high school people talk. I'm going to fit in great. And that is not how high school people talk.
No way. That's reality crashing down on
Yeah.
you.
So I got to high school, and there really wasn't any sort of creative classes. There was an art class where it was more about painting and drawing. I was told by that teacher I had the intellect of art of a 2-year-old, so that one kind of hurt. But I was always good at writing, so I wrote for the school newspaper. I would do movie reviews, concert reviews,
Right.
and we had a theater department, and I was a part of 2 productions as kind of not main characters, background characters. But after that, after my sophomore year, I stopped getting parts in the theatrical productions at school. So I
Right.
went to the theatrical production head and said, all right, I didn't get a part, but can I be a part of building the sets? Can I paint the sets? Can I help light the sets? I wanted to be a part of it. And they said, no, we got a team, so we're pretty good.
Oh.
So
Yikes.
I was
that's a bummer.
well, that doesn't make any sense to me if I'm saying, hey, I'll help out for free, but you don't. Okay, that's fine.
Wow.
So again, my mom and my aunt were real influential in what I had done. So when they heard that no, they said, all right, well, let's go to New York. And they took me and our friend Stacy as well. They would take me to see different theater productions every 4 months.
Wow.
On Broadway.
That's awesome.
There'd be times where we would go up on a Saturday morning, not have tickets to anything, go to the ticket booth in Times Square and say, this is at 3:00. There's 4 tickets available. We would buy that and go see that.
Do you remember what sort of plays you saw?
The first play I saw, it wasn't in New York. It was in D.C., but I saw Les Mis.
Ah.
And again, my mom told me later on that she watched me watch the theater production, and again, I was enthralled and couldn't look away from, there's I don't want to give anything away, but there's one scene where someone is on a bridge.
Right.
And then they jump. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But in the play version, they're on a set, the person jumps, and then they lift the bridge up to the ceiling.
Oh, fun.
And like I was staring at the stage and then looking up, seeing like, all right, how did they do that? And how did they change the lighting to show water and that kind of thing?
Nice.
So while high school was fine, it definitely didn't prepare me for what I wanted to do. And my mom made sure went to the Rosie O'Donnell show. I went to Emerald. I asked, the Food Network crew, when did you get started? How did you do this? How did you do that? I was always asking questions. And even though not in the traditional way of school, it was them taking me places that, they knew I would be interested in.
Right.
And again, growing up watching wrestling, I was always enthralled going to live events to see how the camera operators worked, how they did this, how they did that. Because it wasn't just about, for me, what was in the ring. It was how they put on a TV production.
Right. Yeah.
So that was that. And then I went to college and I was in film, video, and theater, got a degree there. They did teach me a lot. It's where I really started using AVID and editing, which is what we use here, because there were not a lot of computers at the time, because this was early 2000. This was 2003 to 7 is when I was there.
Right.
So the entire major had maybe 7 computers for everyone.
Eesh.
And there was one AVID system.
Wow.
In the
just
school.
one editing bay.
And everyone hated it because it was like Final Cut. And there was one edit bay open that was AVID, and I was like, well, no one's in there.
Might as well.
I'll figure it out.
Right.
Can't be that different than what I'm learning with Final Cut.
And then you jumped in and you're like, whoa.
Oh, this is pretty different.
Yes.
But it actually worked out because I had done something, I guess it was junior year before my internship. And I cut it on AVID, so I knew a little bit. And then I became an intern here, and Frank Badovic, one of the producers here, said, "Hey, I've got some. I need some bonus footage cut for this show I'm making about Bob the Vid Tech. It's gonna be a bonus feature online or on our DVD.
Sure.
Can you just cut something that I just want to see what you can do?"
Right.
And luckily, I knew AVID
Right.
a little bit from teaching myself. Eventually, there is an AVID class. I don't want to make it sound like there wasn't.
Sure. Yeah.
There was one that I did learn a lot of the other stuff from. But luckily, I knew enough to cut something for Frank, and he was really impressed with it.
Right. Oh, that's funny that you bring that up, because I remember when I interviewed for the job here of production editor, and I had to do the editing test to see if I could edit on AVID, and I had never used AVID.
Yeah.
Like, I've been Adobe Premiere my whole life, so editing on a new system. For people who might not know, if you're an editor and you've used one program for years, jumping into another program ain't that easy. I felt like a dinosaur. I felt like I was moving so slow. I'm like, okay, this is the in and out. Okay,
right.
There's the it was the slowest. I could even as I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get this job. I'm going so slow.
It's a lot of muscle memory, and once you figure out the shortcuts, I mean, Final Cut, AVID, DaVinci's a real big one right now. Premiere Pro, they all do the same thing,
right?
But it's figuring out what's named what and where certain effects are hidden, and what the keyboard shortcuts are.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's definitely like going back to school, learning something brand new, even though you're like, I know what I want to do.
Well, and that's the funny thing. It's like we always have to keep updating ourselves with it too, because these programs change.
Yeah.
I mean, Adobe Premiere, obviously, and they all have, but Adobe Premiere has gone through so many changes where, yes, its basic infrastructure hasn't changed much, but a lot of the details of what it does has changed. And I mean, as we've been doing this remote working for a while, we've still had to take workshops and training tutorial. Like there are things where like a producer might ask you to, I don't know if they ever have asked you, but if somebody asks you, how do you make parchment paper, like a look of parchment paper in After Effects?
Right.
You might not know that off the top of your head. So it's like you still got to keep looking and keep doing tutorials because you keep learning these things.
Yeah,
and
that's a big thing. Even, I mean, I've been doing this. I've been back here 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to take courses and still need to figure out how to do certain things. I don't know it like the back of my hand. I don't think any editor does.
No, exactly.
That's a job. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's a very good point. Now, so you've been an editor here for 6 years. About
6 years.
Yeah. Right. Now, you may have mentioned this already. What's your favorite thing to edit here, just categorically? Do you have a favorite, or like is there just like are there individual parts of various shows that you enjoy editing?
Oh man,
got you with a good one, didn't I?
You did. Gosh, I don't know if there's a favorite. Each one is so different than the other.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite. I think the thing I like most about editing is that even though I am the one at the keyboard and I'm doing everything, it's so collaborative.
Right.
So if I can work with a really talented producer who can trust me and let me kind of make some of the cuts and make some of the decisions, I think that's my favorite part. My favorite part of doing like an entire show is the cut down. Right. If we are running long, I like being able to go through making things make sense with taking things out. Like, again, you said earlier that no one else would notice.
Right. You have to make it seamless and entertaining at the same time. Yeah. Like, it can't just be, okay, we're done with that story, let's just cut right to this. No, you have to do some type of transition and everything like that.
Right. As long as it entertains the audience,
right? I
think that's the most important thing. Is that as long as the audience is entertained and we put out something that is fun or is thought-provoking, I'm happy.
And I think that's the goal of everybody here. I think we all want to put out content that everybody can enjoy, especially nowadays in situations like this. This is when we need it the most. This is when video content and everything we can do, this content right here, this podcast we're doing right here, which is brand new. This is, this is what people need. Maybe not need, but at least helps them get through a time like this.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's
and our frontline workers right now, they're the heroes. They're the ones
absolutely
on the front line. But I'm very proud of the fact that MPT has kept the public informed of what's going on with the coronavirus, with COVID-19, and we've also been able to put out other great content, concerts, and we're preparing right now for a special farm show that's going to be out that I'll get to work on
Nice.
As the online editor, and I'm really excited about that because
Yeah.
there's an audience out there that loves the show,
Yeah.
and if we can entertain those people while they're stuck at home, I'm ecstatic about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, as we sort of wrap up here, we've all been working from home and coming into the building every now and then, but you have a coworker at home in the name of your dog Finn.
Yes, yeah.
How has he been adjusting to your new work schedule?
I think he is so sick of me.
Really?
Yeah, he is a great dog. He's very energetic. But there are times where I'm like, hey, you want to go outside again? And he's like, no, I want to sleep. So I'll ask him to come to video meetings with me so people can see him. And he won't get up.
Yeah.
He enjoys his sleep in his chair.
That's so
and
funny.
does not want to go to the workstation I have in the basement. And he's like, no, you're on your own now, bud.
That's so funny because he's the exact opposite of my dog. And I know many people won't get to see what our dogs look like, but me and your dogs are very similar. They're both pit mixes. They both have dark hair with like white lines down their face, and but my dog Asher, he's the opposite. He'll like lie down with us because we're not doing anything, so he just kind of resigns himself to lying down with us. But if we get up, he's like, oh my goodness, can we play? Can we play now? So that's very funny. But
yeah,
But hey, do you enjoy being able to see Finn every day?
Oh, I absolutely love it. I mean, the days that I do come in here, I do contemplate, hey, wouldn't it be great if he could come with me? So, but no,
I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
I very much approve that message.
Yeah, but when the whole thing started, I started a video or a photo series. I started a photo series with him where I kept sitting him in front of my computer in the chair, and I was doing a different caption, or I'd put him in a tie or something like that. But after about 3 or 4 days, he was like, I'm done now.
That's it. You've had your fun.
Yeah. You've had your fun. I'm going back to sleep.
For those of you who don't know, Brandon always does, whenever he came into the office, he would always have a pin of the day on his Facebook stories.
Yeah.
Was Finn supposed to be like your pin of the day for a while?
He was going to be my new pin of the day. But again, after 4 days, he was like, I don't like your swivel chair. I don't want to be a part of this. No.
Come on, Finn. You have to give people what they want. They want fresh content every day.
Right. And he's like, I don't care. I want a treat. So enough.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I mean, hopefully he'll enjoy it while it lasts, because at some point we will be back in the offices, providing content once again. And I'm sure there will be, a time where we're all back to a relative normal, and hopefully we get there sooner rather than later.
We can hope.
Exactly. But who knows? But I think we're going to wrap up. But thanks, Brandon. This was an awesome interview. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to hear more of my stories, I'm always here.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, good luck with the Emmys.
Thank you.
And, good luck to you and everybody else that MPT was nominated. I hope for a fantastic Emmy run this year.
Yeah, it really was a great year of content from MPT, and a lot of great stories, a lot of great shows. And I think a bunch of them are available on our Cove player, so people can go check those out if they're interested.
That's a good plug. That's a good plug. But anyway, thank you once again. And for everybody else listening, thank you for joining in. And if you want to work with production services, this is Maryland Public Television's Work for Hire arm. We serve outside clients for both field and studio productions, editing, and live uplinks. So if you'd like more information on that, please go to mpt.org/about/rentals, or you can email us at rentals.mpt.org. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you behind the camera.
Even using my tag.
That's nice. Because it's perfect. I figured it was, that was like, I have to maintain that.
All right, everybody. That was my last podcast.
That's it.
Yeah, I peaked.
Look at me. I am podcaster now.
We're keeping that part in, by the way.
Are we? Okay, great.